If you spend any amount of time in the One Piece power scaling community, you've probably seen terms thrown around like YC1 or Yonko Commander 1, YC2, Yonko level, etc. etc. And these terms have been used for years now in order to place various characters in the verse in tiers of power, even though we know literally nothing about them other than their name. The only problem with this tiering system is it's complete and utter garbage. Using this tiering system leads to so many inconsistencies and holes that if it was a boat, it would sink the instant you put it in the water. This tiering system is so commonplace, you'll very often see it in random posts across the internet and various platforms, where various people are trying to be concise about a character's power level like a tier list, and it's used despite its flaws. And today I hope to illustrate just how bad it is. But before we get into that, if you enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like and maybe even a sub if you want to see more. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Now first of all, let's get into where this naming scheme even comes from. That being the Whitebeard Pirates, and oh boy, there are so many problems with this. First of all, Whitebeard didn't name these divisions based off of strength. They're just random divisions under the command of the people Whitebeard thinks are the strongest. And what reinforces this is that for decades, they didn't have a second division commander. So what does that tell you? Because according to the tiering system, this would mean that, aside from Whitebeard of course, Marco was the strongest on the crew and Jozu was the third strongest, but they just somehow didn't have a second? That literally makes zero sense. And that's with me ignoring the fact that Odin was the second division commander and he was clearly the strongest after Whitebeard. So why wasn't he the first commander or Yonko Commander 1? And I want y'all to keep Odin in mind because he's gonna come up again later. But do you see how the very origin of this naming scheme doesn't even hold up? It's like someone built a house and the foundation was crumbling before they even started building the house properly, but for some reason the community is confident in moving into this place. And then another reason why it doesn't make sense is people seem to use Vice Captain tier synonymously with YC1 for some reason, which makes zero sense since there's not a single commander who's also a Vice Captain. If you look at the Straw Hats, the commanders are either the main 9 on the Sunny, based on the newspaper, or the Grand Fleet members. Either way, none of them are vice captain, since Luffy doesn't have a vice captain appointed. And before the Zoro fans come in, no, he's not the vice captain. He's listed as simply the combatant at the start of every volume. Onto the Whitebeard Pirates, Marco isn't the vice captain. If anything, Odin was at some point, and again, he was the second division commander. Big Mom Pirates, I'd argue the vice captain is either her first son, or, the dude who literally started the crew with her and was on the Rocks Pirates with her. And you know what's funny? Neither of these people are part of the Sweet Commanders. Kaido doesn't have a vice captain. Shanks does in Beckman, but his division commanders are literal fodder, so how does that work? Already the steering system has shown it has zero reason to exist based on what goes on in the series proper. Now the next argument is, well, it's just supposed to be a general power ranking based on their position on the crew. So let's address that, shall we? Let's start with Odin. Odin was considered by Whitebeard to be the only man on his crew not worthy of being a son, but instead a brother, which already tells me he's a cut above the rest of the Whitebeard Pirates. Odin has other accolades like being put alongside Rocks, Roger, Shanks, and Whitebeard by Kaido, and being strong enough to garner interest from Roger and even have Gaban and Rayleigh considering jumping him. So now that I've laid all this out, what in the name of Dende makes any of you think that not only is he weaker than Marco, but on the same tier as Ace, but weaker than King, same King whose captain, the Yonko, has PTSD from Odin? You see how little sense this is starting to make? But then you have the people that say Odin is simply the exception to the rule. Everyone else checks out. Oh well, I say we see about that. So let's start by taking a look at Queen. According to this Yonko Commander tiering system, he's a Yonko Commander too, right? I'm sure I don't got to convince anyone of this. So let's have a look at people who are supposedly in this tier. Okay, so starting off we have Sanji, who fought Queen while protecting everyone on the performance floor from Peril Sparrow, and went on to fight both King and Queen at the same time, while potentially nerfed, mind you. And then afterwards, Sanji has a mental crisis and ends Queen in one combo while protecting a lady and her mouse. Oh, and Sanji is also stated to be equal to Yonko Commander 1 level character Zoro. So, what now? But hey, surely it's just another exception, right? I mean, the Straws are the main characters, so maybe the rule doesn't apply then. It's just another exception, right? So let's use our premier Yonko Commander 2 character Queen once again, and compare him to another Yonko Commander 2. Let's see who we have. Odin? Wait, we've established he's an exception. Okay, let's look at Blackbeard's crew and see who we have. Shiryu? 0 feats besides stabbing Garb, so can't really say. Then on the Big Mom Pirates, going by bounty, Smoothie would be considered the second strongest sweet commander, but featless. I know, bounty scaling, you. but I bring it up because I don't want to compare Queen to Cracker and then have someone complaining that he's actually a third commander because of bounty or whatever. So I'll just move past the Big Mom Pirates for this section. So what other supposed Yonko Commander 2s are there? Kaban, same guy who pressed the Luffy from 2 arcs after Wano to Gear 5 and Zoro to 3 sword style. Old Gaban had these two ready to jump, and you think Queen is moving like this? Cause damn, if so, Sanji must be holding out on us, cause he could have handled Kizaru in no time flat if Yonko Commander 2s are moving like this. But now, Gaban is clearly an exception. He was the left hand of the Pirate King after all. So in total, we found a total of 0 characters who are verifiably equal to Yonko Commander 2 Queen. So how is this tiering system supposed to work if the most cut and dry Yonko Commander 2 we had has literally no one on his level? But hey, maybe the Yonko Commander 2 tier as a whole is just the exception, and once you get to Yonko Commander 1, it'll make more sense. So let's look at King. Prime example of first commander, I would say, right? Other people in this tier would obviously include Katakuri, Marco, Zoro, and we've already established Sanji got to at least be in this tier if Zoro is, right? So let's look at Zoro vs King. It was a pretty extreme diff fight, so I guess it checks out so far. Well done, tiering system, you finally got one right. Alright, so let's look at other people in this tier. Okay, Marco fought both King and Queen after flying all the way from Sphinx Island and using stamina to stop the ice-only disease from spreading. Huh. Marco also is the same guy who was able to box with an admiral, which according to the tiering system is a step above this tier, so... Okay, maybe he's another exception. Okay, so let's look at Katakuri. Surely he'll prove once and for all that the tier list is actually worth using, right? Okay, let's see. He struggled with a tired Whole Cake Island Luffy who was giving him time to rest so he could fight him at his best so that Luffy could use him to get stronger. And after this, Luffy's base goes on to power cliff his Gear 4 self from Whole Cake Island, and ulti completely beats the new base Luffy. Same ulti was confirmed weaker than Queen based on the Beast Pirates hierarchy. Aight, maybe he's just another exception. Let's see who else is a Yonko Commander 1. Come on, they've got to prove this tiering system makes sense. So we have Mihawk, who's a rival to Yonko Shanks. So clearly an exception. Alright, but let's look elsewhere. We got Kuzan, same guy who fought evenly with the Fleet Admiral and at bare minimum is equal to Kizaru, who no matter how you slice it is around Gear 5 Luffy level, who is also a Yonko. Nah, but hey, Kuzan was a Marine, so maybe he's an exception too. But man, at this point, this system got a lot of exceptions. I'm beginning to wonder what the rule is. Now I thought it'd be useful if we look at some of the other random implications that this tiering system makes. Izo, if you all didn't know, is the 16th Division Commander of the Whitebeard Pirates. Now, if we were to use this tiering system as it stands, this would make Izo a chopper victim. Hell, it means he loses to both Nami and Usopp individually, since if you're using what the manga says and treating them as commanders, the weak trio can only at absolute lowest be a 10th commander, which means every one of them stomps Izo. Now look, I am a weak trio defender. I think they are heavily underrated, especially Usopp. I even made a whole video putting him up against every pre-time skip villain. But I'm sorry, they are not beating Izo. Actually, matter of fact, this implies Izo is a Vivi victim, since if she joins, she'd be the 11th commander and he's 16th. Like, this tiering system is so garbage, bruh, it genuinely needs to stop being used. And then there's also stuff like having Yonko and Pirate King being separate tiers, as if Yonko Whitebeard wasn't a rival to Pirate King Roger. But now, Whitebeard must be another exception, right guys? I could honestly go on and on about every inconsistency, but I'd probably be here forever, and I think I've proven my point that this tiering system is the biggest lie the community has ever perpetuated. But hey, let me know what you guys think about the tiering system, and if there's any funny scaling change it causes, let me know. Maybe I missed a few. And with that being said, I just want to thank each and every one of you for watching, and hope you all have a great rest of your day or night, whenever you're watching this, and hope to see you all next time.